if we want to be in a society where millions of people aren't dying every year because of lack of access to health care, there are completely non-utopian solutions. Get a healthcare system like other societies. I mean, that's not utopia. Actually, I think we can do way better than that. But at least that. It's a very free country. The government has a limited capacity to coerce, in fact, freer than maybe any other society. So there's some risks, but plenty of opportunity. And just pursue them. Educate, cripple people. In order to change anything, people have to have some understanding of what's going on. Okay, that means education, which is not just sort of lecturing to people, but interacting with them. So you all study, inquire, learn, get a sense of what the world is like, what your own society is like. Along with that should come organizations, form individuals can't really do much by themselves, but working together you can achieve quite a lot. And in fact, a lot has been achieved. We can look back at the models that have worked. Even in very recent years, the models have worked very well. So looking around this auditorium, roughly half the people are women, I guess. That's true of most universities. It certainly wasn't true 50 years ago. Like when I got to MIT 50 years ago, 5 years ago, it was white males, passive, obedient, doing their work. Now it's like this, half women, third minorities, a lot of informal dress, meaning informal relations, and a lot of activism, kids interested in all kinds of things. It's a radical change. Well, how did it take place? Those of you who are old enough will remember that the women's movement, for example, began with small consciousness-raising groups. People just talking to each other. Literally, women talking to each other and saying, look, are we oppressed? Are there things about the way we live which shouldn't be that way? That's not an easy step to take. Like, for example, if you'd asked my grandmother whether she was oppressed, she wouldn't have known what you're talking about. Life means you work in the kitchen all day, you take care of the kids. Your husband shows up at 6 o'clock, you have dinner in front of him he wants. So that's life. That's not oppression. And that's the way it had been as far back as culture went. Okay, that changed. Like my daughters didn't have that opinion. And it has made, you know, if you stop to think about it, just take, I mean, this holds for many other areas, but just take women's rights, which is pretty striking. Take a look at the history of UN, just in the United States, forget Afghanistan, India, other horrible places. Take the United States. When the Constitution was established, we followed British common law. It was taken over to Blackstone's compendium of British common law. Well, it deals with women. Women are property. A woman is the property of her father and then of her husband. You look at the debates in the Constitutional Convention about whether women should be allowed to vote. One of the arguments against it was that it would be unfair to unmarried men, because it would mean that a married man gets 2 votes, since it's obvious the way the property goes. That goes almost to the present. I mean, it was literally in 1975, long ago, that women got the right to serve on federal juries. Before that, they weren't peers. They were property. It had been big changes. The feminist movement goes back centuries. But it really took off in the 60s in the manner that I described. And that's all kinds of other things. Things like the environmental movement, for example, on which American faith and that didn't exist at all in the 60s. Literally wasn't there. It began to take off in the 70s. Now it's substantial, not enough, but substantial. The anti-war movements of the 60s, which are kind of misunderstood. They were important, but was no protest during that whole, very little protest during that whole period. Finally, it got to something real. And it lasted. So Reagan, for example, when he launched the wars in Central America, which were pretty horrible, he tried to follow the model of John F. Kennedy, almost exactly. If those of you who are old enough will remember, started with a white paper, State Department white paper about communists taking over the world, at our throats, and so on. Then we've got to do something to defend ourselves. They called it off within a couple of months because what Kennedy could get away with without any protest, he elicited a huge protest by the time he got to the 80s. So the wars that went on were awful enough, hundreds of thousands of people killed, tortured, all sorts of things, but nothing like, say, South Vietnam. So when you get to Iraq, it's the first time in the history of the imperial world that there were massive protests against the invasion before it started. Now, the propaganda tells you it didn't have any effect, but that's not true. The United States and Britain couldn't even think about the kinds of things that they did, that the U.S. did automatically in Indochina, like massive, B-52 bombardment of densely populated areas, chemical warfare that destroyed crops, driving millions of people into concentration camps. Couldn't even think of it. And the effect was bad enough. Devastated the society, but nowhere near what it could have been. Well, all of these are cumulative results of education, organizing, and activism. And over the centuries, it's made a big difference. That's why we have much freer countries than we had before in many domains. And so what can you do?